Thank you. Thank you. I'm Angie Mock, the publisher and CEO of the San Antonio Report. And in collaboration with Greater SATX, we are so delighted to bring you today's event, View from the C-Suite, the Future of Work in San Antonio. Civic engagement has always been a really important role that we play at the San Antonio Report. And it's specifically when we can do an event like this and talk about something that we cover on the day-to-day, like workforce, and dig deeper and have a deep discussion. And we're certainly delighted to do this about workforce. It is so important in San Antonio, and so much has changed in the last several years. Our sponsors make events like this happen, so thank you to our Change Maker sponsor, USAA. Thank you. Our innovation sponsors, Pape Dawson Engineers, Texas A&M San Antonio, the City of San Antonio Workforce Department, the 80/20 Foundation, and all of the many city builder sponsors that we have. Thank you. As a nonprofit newsroom, we depend heavily on our board of directors for guidance, governance, and also to gain support to ensure that credible local news is available to our entire community, not just people who can pay for it. And I'm so proud to have so many of our board members here today, and I'd like for you to stand and let everyone thank you for your amazing service to this community. Please stand, board members. This event wouldn't be possible without the close collaboration of Greater SATX. And to help get us kicked off here, please welcome their CEO, Jenna Sauceda Herrera.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to an important conversation that we at Greater are thrilled to collaborate with the San Antonio Report on. As Angie mentioned, I'm Jenna Saucedo, and I have the tremendous privilege of leading Greater SATX. We're the regional economic partnership for San Antonio. Our mission at Greater is relatively simple. We exist to create jobs in the San Antonio region. And so for us, economic development is workforce development. So when Angie and I were talking through what this event could be about, it made perfect sense to come together to align with the report and to feature some of our region's most prominent business leaders in a discussion around the future of work. You know, as a region, I hope everybody in this room knows that we are working together to positively inform our economic trajectory by investing in our people, investing in our place, to grow quality jobs. That, of course, translates into conversations like we'll have today about talent development, talent pipeline management, air service development efforts, and at the end of the day, also marketing the San Antonio region to the rest of the world. Of course, that supports bringing new corporate citizens to San Antonio, but even more importantly, all of those efforts support the growth of those businesses like yours that already call San Antonio home. It's critical, as Angie mentioned, and as Romanita and everyone from our Greater SATX team will say, for employers to inform those workforce development strategies, to be at the table with us when we're talking about your demand, to fill jobs today and to fill jobs in the future. But it's also our job, in partnership with the City of San Antonio, Bexar County, and all of our other supply-side partners like our 16 colleges and universities. And I see Chancellor Flores here today, the largest provider of talent in the San Antonio region. It's important for us to work together to talk about the supply and demand and to develop strategies to actually implement, to serve you, to serve our employers so that you can continue to grow and prosper in San Antonio. So with that, before I tee Angie back up, thank you. Thank you for engaging in our talent pipeline management efforts. Thank you for supporting SA Ready to Work. Thank you for being here today. And most importantly, thank you for leaning in with us It's what makes San Antonio different. It's what makes San Antonio unique. Thank you for choosing to lean in and be a part of our workforce development strategies that will inform economic mobility for all San Antonians. We're greater together.
Thank you so much, Jenna. We really appreciate the partnership. We're about to get started. I just want to say, the San Antonio Report has 8 reporters to report on this entire city. And in today's media landscape, our jobs are not easy. And we are so delighted to have Lee Munsell as our newsroom leader, and she's going to be the moderator for our discussion today. Lee is our editor-in-chief, and I now invite Lee and the panelists to take the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, perfect. The mic's working. I understand you have to eat while we talk, so that's going to happen. Come on up, moderators. Panelists, come on up. Thank you all for being here. This is such a really important conversation we're about to have, and what a group of local business leaders to hear from, and really national and international business leaders. My name is Lee Munsell. I'm the editor-in-chief of the San Antonio Report, which is a nonprofit newsroom here in town. I'm joined today by a group of San Antonio C-suite leaders with resumes so long that it would take the entire hour just to read them. So I'll introduce them briefly so that we can get started. Andrea Marks is the Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for UT Health San Antonio. With an annual biomedical research portfolio of more than $360 million, the university is a primary driver of the city's growing healthcare and biosciences sector. In her role, Marks plans, administers, and directs the operations of UT Health's programs and facilities, plus manages new ventures and sites. Andrea, go ahead and wave. Bianca Rhodes here. Thank you. Is the CEO and president of Knight Aerospace, which designs, manufactures, and customizes modules, pallets, and other components for military cargo aircraft. The private San Antonio-based company was founded in 1992 and now provides specialty air transportation solutions to more than 36 countries around the world. Now, let's hear for Bianca. And then, yeah, go ahead and clap each time. Craig Boyan is the president of HEB and is also a member of the HEB board and a trustee of the HEB Investment Retirement Plan. HEB operates more than 435 stores in Texas and Mexico with roughly 160,000 employees or partners and annual sales of $43 billion. The San Antonio-based grocer is among America's largest privately held companies. Craig Boyan. Suzanne Kazunas is president of Toyota Motor Manufacturing Texas Incorporated, based on the south side of San Antonio, Texas. She leads all production and administrative functions at the manufacturing facility, which assembles both the Toyota Tundra and the Sequoia. She is also a member of the advisory board for SA Works, an organization focused on workforce development. Thank you for being here, Suzanne. Wayne Peacock is the president and chief executive officer of USAA, with more than 30 years of experience in the company. Founded in 1922 as an insurance association serving military families, the San Antonio-based USAA is one of America's top financial services companies. It offers insurance, banking, and investment and retirement solutions to more than 13 million members. Thank you for being here. Now, I think we could have an hour-long conversation with each of you about this topic, but what's really special about what we're doing today is that you're all here and can speak together to this moment in San Antonio's workforce and the workforce as a whole. Together, you account for a pretty significant portion of our local economy, so I think this will be a really interesting conversation. Now, from iconic Texas brands with national and international notoriety to an international giant that was recruited in, choosing to build its future in our community, every organization on this stage represents a unique and significant San Antonio success story, plus example after example of innovation in the retail, tech, health, financial services, aerospace, and manufacturing industries. So let's get right into it. Paint a picture for us. We're several years removed from a global pandemic that it would be no exaggeration to say changed everything. From supply chains to component costs and inflation, to the way we shop, to the way we job search and hire, and even the way that we work. how we consider office space flexibility, worker satisfaction, and the structure of the work week. And the biggest disruptor of all, the internet, is still remaking our business landscape all day, every day at the speed of data transfer. Artificial intelligence is the next big market shift in a long line of them, and uncertainty is the new certainty. With so many macro changes occurring all the time, help us understand this moment in work. How do you keep each of your metaphorical ships steady among the constant barrage of waves? Let's start with Wayne on that one, and then we'll bump around. I'm sorry. Everybody gets one.
That was a simple question.
Yeah.
Smartest
Yeah.
one way.
Look, I think there's never been a time, in society or business where there's been this much change going on and this much uncertainty, and the velocity of that change has never been as fast as it is today. So to your point around how do you keep all of these issues in check or aligned, I think that is a growing challenge, but one I think leaders have to really take on in a powerful way. When I think about the things that have mattered most over the last few years, clearly the disruption to how companies work was a big part of the pandemic impact. What has happened to, I think, societal views about where we live and how we work have been huge impacts as well. And I think we have been transferring the power from employers to employees during this period of time as well. And I think those are, to me, some of the big challenges we have to seek equilibrium around as we go forward. And I do think that there is kind of a growing sense today that humans were meant to come together and convene, much like we are doing today, and that institutions provide an opportunity for that to happen really well, but in a purposeful way to drive impact for consumers as well, and convincing employees, teammates, new entrants to the market that being together while still maintaining flexibility to manage all of the challenges of life, whether it's taking care of kids or elderly parents or whatever else comes along, is a big art form, I think, for leaders and for companies today. So I think that's one big change that we at USA are continuing to kind of shift our way through and manage. But the other big change that happened during this period, to your point around the internet, is we thought a lot could be done digitally before. Now everything can be done digitally, and we have changed the way consumers interact, whether it's the parking lot or the delivery at H-E-B, or it's the mobile capabilities at USAA, or a myriad of other changes. How companies do business has shifted tremendously, and that also has an impact then on the nature of work and how we need to train our employees going forward. And then you add to that what has happened in the economy with incredibly fast changes in the rate of interest, along with the compounding impact of inflation, which is hitting every single household in America, which is hitting employees' household budgets as well, and impacting many companies in terms of how they manage balance sheets and debt. There's a lot to manage simultaneously. I think what we have to come back to is recognize today's work, which is about serving customers really, really well, and the parts of our companies that are focused on that exclusively, keep them focused on the North Star of, it's Thursday, like do a great job, whether you're at the H-E-B or whether you're coming to, a phone call at USAA, like that team needs to do a great job. And then you have to have a dedicated team that is really looking at how we translate, transition, and reinvent the future and be able to handle that, in a simultaneous fashion while not disconnecting the here and now from the transformation that's underway to build the future. And I'll come back and say I think this is probably one of the most challenging times to be in business, and also one of the more exciting times to be part of reimagining business in this period of transformation.
Thank you. If this were a debate, a name check means that we go straight to Craig at H-E-B to jump off on that one, but this is not a debate, but Craig, will you jump in next?
There's no way I'm debating Wayne Peacock, so Wayne wins. Let's just call it a day. One thing that we really experienced during the pandemic, and I think all companies experienced, is that we all work really hard on this ethereal thing called culture, which is hard to define, but probably our most valuable asset and also our most fragile asset. And We study culture very carefully at HEB. We're known as having the best culture in retail. That's a pretty low bar for many. I'm a biased person, so you get what you pay for. But we continue to try to grow our culture, but during the pandemic, our culture took a hit. And we saw our culture drop precipitously during the pandemic, partly because running grocery stores was real complicated with the pandemic and the mask battles, and then we had supply chain battles, and we had staffing battles, and it was like one after another. We're pretty good at serving disasters. A hurricane, we get up, we're ready, that's when HEB's at our best. But a pandemic and supply chain, like 4 years of crisis is like more than an ultra marathon, and we were all in on taking care of that crisis. But what that ended up meaning is we had to stop doing, somewhat unintentionally, had to pull back from doing some things that make us great. And for us, the number one thing that makes us great is investing in people. We believe we're a people company that just happens to sell groceries. And we had to get back from some training, some development, some mentorship, and that focus on crises for 4 years that every business here had to go through had negative unintended consequences in your business. And so we have had to really be very intentional about how do we rebuild that culture? How do we get back to doubling down on training and development and mentorship and inclusion and making people feel valuable? And we study culture so carefully, and a friend of mine at MIT studies it, and he says, hard to define, how would you define it? But of course the important things like pay and benefits, that's table stakes. But what really matters more is mentorship and living the values. But what matters most, 19 times more important, is I feel respected. And do people in your organization say, I feel respected? And in the middle of the pandemic and in the middle of the crisis, we had less people saying that at HEB. So we're trying to get back to how do we build connection, how do we build culture, how do people see themselves at HEB, and how do we return to the great people company that we once were, that we're aspiring to be again. And so our culture is back on the rise. I hope you see it when you are in our stores. But I think every one of us feels that. And how do we have 163,000 people. We don't wake up on a Monday morning and say, everybody, go be happy. I'd love to say that, but it's like, how do you really live it? And how do you show it? And how is it demonstrated? Like, you're living up to my schedule, and I'm getting out for my overnight stocking on time so I can take my kids to school. Not just you cook me steaks, not that you cared about me, not that you pay me well. And what are the things we need to do to live into a culture where each person says, I feel respected? And I think that's our goal. And we're great at that in San Antonio and South Texas. Culturally, we're great at that. But we all got an opportunity to be better.
Now, I don't know exactly the latest on this, but I believe manufacturing and healthcare are right up there in the top drivers of San Antonio's industry. So Andrea, can you take the healthcare piece of this and tell us at this moment how you're managing the workforce?
Certainly. Thank you. I do want to make one small correction. I would be remiss, and my president would not be happy if I didn't say our research is actually in excess of 400 million, not 360 million. We are very proud to be the destination for healthcare and biomedical research for San Antonio. We asked a lot of our faculty, staff, and all of our employees during the pandemic. We asked them to focus not on themselves and their families, but on the community and the patient care and the students that we needed to serve. And so I think all of what Craig has said, what Wayne has said, have been just spot on in terms of the art form that it takes to get people to run to the fire, to be engaged, and to put the mission above their own personal needs. And so we have tried to be very intentional with our retention of our personnel and making sure that they do feel the respect, but also the alignment to the mission and the commitment to the mission. Because many people, particularly healthcare providers, come into the profession to help people. They want to contribute. Researchers, the same thing. They want to find the next discovery. And so asking them to put that above all else has been something that I'm really proud of in terms of our organization, how our faculty and our staff responded for the benefit of the community, but also for the future. We educate the next generation of healthcare professionals, and they are so needed in this community, in this region. And so making sure that that was our priority. I think what has been a challenge coming out of the pandemic is still managing that workforce. They're fatigued, right? And so, but the challenges keep coming. And so making sure that we are intentional about what their needs are. What is that social contract between our faculty and the UT Health and our staff in UT Health? Because it's different. It's different for a faculty member who comes to us. It's different for an accountant who comes to us. But to Craig's point, making sure that we are focused on what that is. So what they expect, not just pay and benefits, but the kinds of challenges, the kinds of opportunities, the kind of professional development that they expect, and the respect that they expect in the workplace. And so we're still working through the journey, but we're incredibly proud of our response.
Thank you. Suzanne, will you jump in on that one?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question. I'm listening to these amazing folks up here speak and reflecting really on our journey. And for those of you that don't know, at Toyota Motor Manufacturing Texas on the south side, we build the Toyota Tundra and the Sequoia. And when Andrea and I were talking before the panel about almost, we reflect back on that time period during the pandemic. And it feels like it was almost a dream when I think about, we paused, or a nightmare. We paused production for 7 weeks. In that 7 weeks, we were trying to figure out how are we going to build trucks with not having a defined mechanism on how we're going to protect our team members. But you can't build trucks from home. You got to show up. And so, what started in that moment was us going back to our values, our culture. And at Toyota, we have the Toyota Way, which is 10 values that guide us. Those are our guiding principles, but they really boil down to 2 pillars: respect for people and continuous improvement. And with this idea of respect for people, the first piece was we're going to send people home for 7 weeks while we try to figure out how to work safely, and we're still going to pay them. We're going to pay them for 7 weeks, and we're going to ask them to just exercise. So when we figure this out and they get back to work, everybody's ready to go. And then, we slowly started that journey back to onboarding. And at the same time, we have 23 on-site suppliers on our campus, some of whom are in this room. And we had to double down on those relationships with those members that were going through this together. And at the same time, we were launching a new product. So we launched the new Toyota Tundra in November of 2021. And the following spring, our hybrid, and then the Sequoia thereafter. And so we're in the middle of trying to bring a new product to market with continuous part shortages, because that was right in the middle of the semiconductor crisis. So it was just one thing after another, and we made some missteps. And as we started listening to our employees with this idea of respect for people, what we heard was they needed more communication. Number one thing is, what's going on? When people don't understand what the situation is, that uncertainty, it creates anxiety for everybody in the organization. So in focus of trying to work through the crisis, we over-communicated. We communicated every single thing that was going on and shared details with our workforce that maybe historically we would not have, but we had to be transparent about what was coming at us and with our partners. And then as we've worked our way out, and really the last year it's stable. The issues related to the parts supply chain have really improved. we successfully launched our 2 new models, and including first time for us to build a hybrid vehicle, and really focused in on exactly those points of team member development. How are we using now this time period to really develop our workforce? And some of that's technical training, some of it is in Toyota Production System, other philosophies. But being able to focus on the people and to also engage and empower them. And so the last year, we've circled back. You know, my predecessor, Kevin Vogel, for those of you who know him, he always said the most important person in our workforce is the team member who touches the truck, that puts the part on the truck. Everybody else in the organization, our job is to support that member. And so with that in mind, you know, we've spent the last year on engaging our team members, trying to understand what's difficult about their work, how we can how we can pull them offline out of the build process so they can improve their own process. And then at the same time, working with our salaried staff on how to be flexible and to continue to understand that we're competing for labor, so we have to be considerate of that point as it relates to that competition. So for us, respect for people coupled with continuous improvement, and we just have stayed steady on that being our guiding principle.
Now, Bianca, you saw a significant increase in demand for what you were supplying during the pandemic. Can you speak to that experience and how you handle uncertainty?
Yeah, it was, so this is a small business perspective, but we had product that we were developing for the US government on the floor. So they immediately told us, you're not shutting down. So we never shut down, and it was difficult. We had to navigate through employees where the spouses were also having to work, and now their kids were at home, and everybody had to have, you know, a unique solution for their problems. But we also, we had just designed and we were building a medical module to transport patients on the back of cargo aircraft, and we immediately had to pivot to make it biocontainment so that countries could repatriate their injured, they're ill and contaminated patients all over the world. And so we had to like double down. We had to find new employees. So I just constantly felt like we were going upstream while everybody was going home. We were trying to bring in more people and, you know, do these things that were very unique. Manufacturing, we didn't have the option to stay home. So separating people on the floor, making sure that they were safe, and going through all of these experiences. But as I look back on it 4 years later, it was an amazing bonding experience, and I couldn't agree with Craig more. You know, culture is everything. That's where the company gets built. I'm down the street from aerospace companies that have thousands of employees, and I've got to keep my little business going, and I have very low turnover because we just spend so much time working on that. And I think the experience of COVID and the product that we brought to the marketplace that was so important and actually saved lives brought us together, and I think we're better than we ever have been as a result of all of that. And even some of the negatives that happened when people had to go home and now are struggling to figure out how to come back, and that balance, we didn't get to have to suffer through that one as much as the next one. And I think even our employees have said, you know, that was a good thing. Coming to work every day was actually a good thing through that, because people who swing the other way are having a hard time swinging back. And so, you know, we had a unique experience, but overall, COVID was good for us in a lot of ways.
Interesting. Help us understand your workforces. Craig, H-E-B has office staff and researchers and frontline grocery workers and even ice cream production specialists. Wayne, you work with corporate staff and actuaries and veterans across all sorts of roles. Suzanne, you have everything from tool and die makers to on-site suppliers, and you even offer plant tours to school groups. Bianca, you have in-house engineers, fabrication specialists, and salespeople. And Andrea, you manage everything from strategic planning to facilities management within facilities with very specific needs, like keeping a negative 80 degrees Celsius sample freezer cold. The more I researched each of your work, the less I envied any of your roles. These are very hard hard workforces to manage. So how do you balance the needs of office workers with frontline workers? Flexibility, for example, is a lot easier to give workers who spend their days on Zoom calls than at a customer service desk or warehousing. When you need to deliver on metrics of success, how do you approach the complexities of your workforces? And let's start with Bianca and go down the line.
Sure. So, we have the same thing. We have aerospace engineers, and then we have sheet metal mechanics, building product on the floor. And I'll tell you, my first reaction is all the office people wanted to stay home. And we tried that for about 3 days. And I was walking around the production floor, and the guys were asking me questions about, no, this is not going to work. Everybody needs to come back. So we elected immediately, not to do that. And it is a hard balance. It's a hard balance when you don't have those challenges to manage a big range of talent and skills. But we have highly skilled people, and I think it's really important that you just address each person for who they are and what they bring to the table. And it's very easy to do in a company our size where, if somebody's missing, we notice. The first thing I do every day is check to see who didn't come to work today, because that makes a really big impact in how we're gonna, be productive on a given day.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think for us at USA, it starts at the top really, which is why are we all here? And we're here because we have an opportunity to serve military families and help them in a very profound way. And we do all different manners of work, but no matter whether we're the folks out front who are actually addressing and dealing with members every day, or we're supporting, analyzing, controlling, or whatever else comes behind it, everyone comes back to, I'm here because our work matters for an important cause of helping military families build their financial security. So keeping that purpose alive, making it human, making it real, is kind of transcends no matter what the skill set is. From a leadership standpoint, the same thing is true. We have the Toyota way, we have the USAA way of what are the core values at our company, the behaviors that we celebrate and support. So no matter where you are, those behaviors and those values are part of the anchor for USAA. And then when you look across at different skill sets, different communities, flexibility matters, and we've tried to create enough around each one of those. Prior to the pandemic, probably 30% of our employees did some major part of their work from home already. And so we were already in that mode in many ways. We have folks today who talk to our members who are in the office, folks who prior to COVID were at home, and we've got a hybrid approach for them as well. For all of our leaders, we've essentially said, back to your point of people need to be on the floor, they need to be together, in the office, be in the office 4 days a week, so that we can collaborate together and drive innovation forward for USAA. I think there are many technical skills that the technical part of the job can be done well, not together, but there are collaboration opportunities, teaming opportunities where folks do need to be together, especially as we're innovating for the future. So even actuaries who could do probably most of their work off in a corner somewhere actually are driving better solutions in this fast-changing pace because they're back together again for part of the world. And if you look at our IT specialists, and I know many of us face the challenge of probably none of them really want to come back to the office any longer. What we've done there is create flexibility in our sprint teams, an agile environment where they can take every other Friday off, so they kind of get work done in 9 days instead of 10. And so that's been one of the ways that we've driven flexibility for those teams. But what we find with the literally hundreds of millions of dollars of investment we're making in technology and building our future, those sprint teams need to be together to drive both the backlog that's important and the execution of what we've chosen to do. And we're finding much better throughput by them being together, but we're still providing flexibility. And then I would say for all of our teammates, if you need to take Friday off, or you need to take Monday off, or you need kids soccer here, or a medical appointment there, we've been a flexible workplace for 50 years, and we continue to be that way today. So it really is about, at the highest level, here's what matters for everyone, and then how do we dial in the right amount of flexibility for the different communities.
Suzanne.
Yeah, I think one of the beauties of being in manufacturing is our daily goals are clear. everybody knows what we have to do to be successful on any given day. And that is to make today 940 high-quality trucks and SUVs that are going to go out to our customer. And we know that the quality of that product is the safety of the customer buying the product. So when you've got an entire team of 3,700 people that understand every day what the goals are for safety, quality, productivity, human development, team member engagement, and 23 on-site suppliers that are also linked into that, and you know what your role and responsibility is, then as a professional, our salaried folks are able to understand when they need to be there versus when they don't. And so a quality engineer, for example, as we were going through the pandemic, our quality engineers are critical to being able to make judgments about the quality of our incoming parts, the quality of our finished vehicles. And we worked to set up an arrangement to say, you're a professional. Understanding what's going on in the business today, you'll got to make that decision if you need to come into work, or if your schedule has 8 hours worth of meetings, maybe you can do that from home. But please be an hour drive from work in case we have an emergency. That's kind of how we handled it. In today's world, though, we are back to a scenario where the majority of our workforce is coming into the plant. We have groups. Accounting and finance is one, that their work can be done remotely. And they do a hybrid system, much like you were talking about, Wayne, where we have some areas where based on the interface and the services that they're providing, we're able to do something that's more in line with the hybrid work schedule. And in other cases, based on our engineering teams that are supporting the production members on the floor, they're going to be in the office. It's a little different, though, for corporate for us. Our corporate headquarters is in Plano, and they initially went to 100% work from home, and now they're in the transition back. They're transitioning more towards a hybrid work schedule, and that's for exactly the reasons that you talked about, that synergy and having everybody together where we're able to work on problems as a group. So that said, I don't sense that even when we had different allowances for different parts of our organization, with the focus on what we have to do every day and understanding your contribution, and that contribution is bigger than yourself, ultimately, our workforce has, we haven't had a significant amount of any friction because everybody knows what they need to do every day to make sure we're building great trucks.
I agree with everything that's been said. I think it's important that we double down on the mission, right? Why we're here, what my role, whether I'm an accountant, whether I'm a housekeeper, whether I'm a neurosurgeon, I understand why I'm here. We compete as an organization, like many of us do, across industries. We compete in healthcare, we compete in education, we compete in research, in accounting, in IT, and so we've had to be uber focused on each of those segments of the market and how we compete and how we attract talent. I think we would have all preferred that we were all on site. Our faculty certainly wanted people close by to help with the delivery of the missions, but in order for us to compete, we had to make different choices for segments of the population. For our core missions, it was a non-negotiable, right? I don't know about you, but I would not want to be treated by a doctor or a nurse who had never touched a patient during their training. I would want them to be engaged with actual real live scenarios before they start working on me. So we had to be unapologetic about the need for folks to be on site for that. But there are other segments of our population, of our workforce, where permanent remote actually can work. You mentioned accounting and finance. Some of our IT, coding and billing, those folks actually creating that flexibility has given us greater access to talent and greater retention of those personnel because they do have the flexibility to tend to their personal needs and then get their job done, provided they understand their contribution to the mission. And so we found, while we tried in some instances to have a full hybrid and not allow full remote in some areas, research administration is a good example. So administrators who support faculty in the management of their grants, across the country, that is a permanent remote job. We had a significant amount of turnover. We had trouble keeping people because we wanted this hybrid relationship. We wanted people to come to be engaged with their faculty. And folks didn't respond to that. And so people could change jobs, change states, and not leave their house. We lost to other universities a significant amount of our workforce. And so we've adapted to that, and now have stabilized that workforce and thought about new ways. It's not so much about the work location as it is about the engagement, the productivity, making time to engage with whether it's a Teams call, how do you connect with the people that you serve, particularly when you're in this supportive back office sort of role. And so that's been a learning process for us. I think that we're settled in the right mix of hybrid versus permanent versus on-site, but we have to be really intentional about how we bolster the support of our managers in managing that workforce. It's really difficult. It's much more difficult than it was in the past to focus on that productivity, to be intentional about those, and to call people in when it's time for a rapid cycle design, right? We do need to get this project done. I think you called it sprints. How do we bring folks together to get that collaborative, that innovation that we need to progress as an organization?
Yeah, Craig.
I remember reading many years ago an article by one of the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who said when he grew up in the military, he'd done pretty much every job, he'd used pretty much every piece of equipment, and it was largely a command and control organization because he'd done all the work. And he said, now I look around, the technology's changed so fast, the situations are moving so fast, there's no way I could do that. So my job now is to enable small teams wherever they are around the world to be empowered work teams and to make great decisions. And that's the way I like to think of HEB, is our jobs in all of our companies to have great local leaders of small groups. And so at HEB, that means a great leader of every single store. And if I can have the best trained leader of each store who will take care of our partners, who will take care of our customers, they in turn will take care of our shareholders. And that's the key. And we also Charles started a group called the Holdsworth Foundation that's trying to do the same with schools, of how do we train the best supers and the best principals to inspire teachers, to take care of kids. And if we can have the best local leaders, the best trained, the most inspired, and they will take care of our folks in that small local work group, that's the key to our success. And so that's what we focus entirely on, is how do we enable those frontline workers to be the best at taking care of our people, training, developing, and inspiring, and that's how we're going to be a great company.
Craig, interestingly, I talked to 3,400 kind of frontline leaders this morning, about this topic, and I reminded them that 98% of the people who work at USAA work for you, right? But that's 3,400 leaders who each have a small team. I was in Colorado yesterday, just walking the floor, talking to a set of those leaders, and Leader A would step up and go, I'm Bill Smith, and here's my 17 folks out here, and here's what we're doing today. And to your point, here's our objectives for the week, here's our whiteboard of what needs to be accomplished. And I think the more that we can train and inspire, and then create the agency for them to be able to lead, you can actually take care of today's business really well, to my earlier point, while you're reinventing tomorrow's business with a separate group.
Totally agree.
Let's talk about San Antonio. Bexar County is one of the fastest growing communities in the U.S. Each of your organizations has continuously chosen over the years to invest significantly in this community, stationing corporate offices here and new campuses, and providing everything from jobs to millions or even billions of dollars in charitable contributions as a group. Plus, I'm pretty sure I've seen most of your logos on the screen during a Spurs game. So how do your organizations approach your roles in the community? Why invest here? And I'm going to start with Craig from HEB.
You know, I didn't grow up in Texas, but one of the things I was so proud of and impressed by when we moved here a couple decades ago is how many purpose-driven companies there are, like this lineup, and how many companies there are here in this city that are so great at running their jobs and doing their businesses while they're taking care of people and taking care of the community. So I just find HEB's purpose is to be the most uber competitive retailer we can be, taking share and competing against the world's largest retailers so that we can do three things: take care of our 163,000 partners and create great careers, take care of Texans to the best of our abilities, and be the best community citizen. And that's what fills us up. When we're taking care of communities, that gives us a lot of pride and a lot of purpose. And we got a lot of non-sexy jobs out there, but we got a lot of really proud people, as you all do, with really purpose-driven companies that give me a lot of pride. And I'm really proud of the San Antonio community, the way we came together during the pandemic. We lost fewer jobs than almost any city in America during the pandemic, even though we are a tourism, service-based economy. And the way we all collaborate on Ready to Work and on workforce and on airport and the many things that are happening in this community. And I see a lot of our educators and our leaders of our college organization making incredible prides on progress, on growing talent and growing the future of San Antonio. So it gives me a lot of pride to be part of this group, to be on this lineup with these impressive people. And I think we need to be really proud of the way this community connects. And Jenna will correct me, or Cece will correct me, but you know, our workforce is not where it needs to be, right? We got more progress. We're making incredible progress. Don't quote me on it. We're not there. We all have progress to make. But one thing is really interesting, and Jenna will correct me, but San Antonio and our businesses contribute to the third best culture in the country as related to all of our companies put together, that the San Antonio quotient of connection and humanness and bicultural connection means all of us are rated kind of one of the top cities in America in terms of our contribution to each of our companies. I bet I butchered that, but it's lovely. Yeah. Did I get reasonably close on my description? Yeah.
Go ahead, Andrea. Will you talk about investment here?
Sure. So the purpose of UT Health is to serve the public good. That means right here at home, in San Antonio, in our region. And so when we think about the partnerships that we build with the San Antonio Spurs, with UTSA, we are focused on that mission, the public good. And what that means is building the community. Our new School of Public Health that is scheduled to start enrolling students in the fall is intended to not focus on patient care, but on health and the health of the community. And what are the things? There are more things than medicine that impact your health. And so what are those aspects of that our community right here at home is faced with that are impacting their health and living a healthy life? And so that partnership with UTSA is incredibly important. Our partnership with the San Antonio Spurs, while we love the branding and the advertisement that we get from being on the screen at the Alamo Dome, the 18th Frost Center, the Frost Center, where is Mr. Frost?
Pat's right here.
Pat, there
He's
you
right
go.
in front.
Frost. The Frost Center, that's really good for us. We love that. But the purpose of that partnership is to bring the community together with an iconic brand and provide opportunities to emphasize healthy living and how the physiology of health and how we can partner with a brand like that to make people aware. People will pay attention when we're talking about the Spurs. And so our partnership with them is intended to drive healthy outcomes. And using that relationship is critical to us, and we are just getting started in that partnership.
Yeah, Suzanne, we always talk in the newsroom, like who's the next Toyota, right? The next JCB, who's the next company that's going to be recruited in here? So as a company that's been recruited in, can you speak to why San Antonio?
Well, let me start with just Toyota. I mean, it's in our DNA to serve. Most people don't know, some of you may know, we started as a loom company. Seiichi Toyota was watching his mother struggle as she was using a loom and decided that he needed to invent a loom that made her work easier. And from there, he went on to patent a number of looms that ultimately his son sold the patent to a European company and started the automotive business. And now we're transitioning towards a mobility company, and our mission is mobility for all. And so in our founding DNA, it's about service and how we can provide products and services to customers that make their lives easier and provide happiness. And as Toyota has grown globally, part of our mission has been to build products where we sell them. 89% of every Toyota sold in the United States of America is made in North America. I don't know that everybody knows that, but that's tied back to this idea that we should be doing business and employing people and be in the fabric of the communities of where we sell our products. San Antonio has been an amazing community for us, and some of that's related to the fabulous workforce. I've worked at a couple of places for Toyota, not in Texas, been here 5 years, and I mean, it's just an amazing culture and partnership, and we've got the best team members, I think, in the States. But all that said, from a personal perspective, having been here 5 years, I've just been amazed at the partnerships between nonprofits, government, and the business partnerships, to see the number of companies that see a common issue and come together to find a solution for that. I don't think there's any place else that I've ever seen that does it quite this well. And so that just fits into the fabric of how we operate our business, and that opportunity that you've got to give back and support and develop where you're doing your work.
Now, this is a joint event. We're really glad to host it with Greater SATX, but that doesn't mean that we get a heads up on who they're recruiting into San Antonio, even though we would love to. Wayne, I would want to ask you, though, when there are new companies considering San Antonio, do they call you up and ask about business here? And what would you say, or what have you said in the past?
Well, the first thing I would say is they call Jenna, and then Jenna calls us, right? We have, over the years, have really had a tremendous legacy, I think, of talking to folks about why San Antonio is special, why it's been so successful for us, and why we think it would be a great place for them to join. And one of the things we talk about a lot is this comment around partnerships here, and the sense of kind of being about the community and being committed to something larger than yourself. And I would just say that we make Toyota Tundras and Sequoias in San Antonio because of that partnership, because back in the day, a lot of folks in this room came together to make it a very appealing opportunity to come here. So I think that's a big part of the fabric, of this great community. And for us, we were born here. We didn't come here, 102 years ago. But we've been working to support this community for a long period of time, because I think there's an altruistic side of this about the impact we have to help economic mobility in San Antonio. And then there's the selfish piece about that, that the better job we do raising all boats, the better the labor market is, the better opportunity we have to hire great talent to continue USA's great legacy. But like Toyota's view on service, one of our core values is service, and we talk to our teams every day about being in service to our members, being in service to each other, and serving the communities where we work and live. Last year, almost 400,000 hours of volunteer time where our folks took their time and talent out into the communities where we work and live to be able to support. It's just in our fabric and DNA as well, like so many other companies, here in San Antonio. But I think when we have a community that is like that, and there are both homegrown companies, but folks who have divisions here who get it about why this place is special and why giving back makes it even better, San Antonio has a truly bright future.
Now, like Toyota, Bianca, you guys are based on the South Side, and the South Side is growing very quickly with Port San Antonio, Brooks, other developments. Can you speak to kind of this moment and how you consider investment in San Antonio, specifically on the South Side?
Yeah, I can't begin to describe the exciting stuff that's happening at Port San Antonio. And I know a lot of people here have not been there and don't know what's going on, and you should, because it is so exciting. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most grateful for. I moved my company to Port San Antonio 5 years ago, and I looked like a genius, but I didn't know what I was doing at the time. It turned out to be this great decision because we have doubled our space twice. But even more importantly than the ability to increase the footprint of my company has been the community partnership. We believe we have jobs. The port is going to grow or double the employment out there in the next 3 to 5 years. And most of those employees can come from our neighborhoods. We are surrounded by neighborhoods where the kids' parents and grandparents worked at Kelly Air Force Base. And all they need is an introduction to the careers that are available to them just down the street. So for instance, last weekend with the port and the D. Howard Foundation, we had a drone competition for middle school and high school students. 350 students, the biggest in the country, and their families from mostly San Antonio, but also South Texas, coming in, being exposed to this amazing network of companies and activities that are happening. And so as a community, we do have to support those kinds of organizations that are speaking to youth, that are and we have to support the partnerships like the port has with the employers out there. We have this really great small community where we all talk to each other, we help solve each other's problems, and we sell our community because it's a great place to office. And San Antonio has so much going for it. We have infrastructure, we have employees that are loyal and have high work ethics. We're not missing anything from some of the neighbors down the highway, except that we don't tell the story enough. And I think it's a great story that we should just keep building on because we've been doing it like this for a very long time, and it's working.
Thank you. Thank you. You can clap. You're all very familiar with San Antonio's workforce development efforts, including SA Ready to Work, a $200 million effort to transform the city's workforce and prepare our population to fill job openings at each of your organizations and many others. For an employer, what are the benefits of these workforce development efforts, and how do you approach hiring local employees versus recruiting from outside the San Antonio area? For job seekers that have similar qualifications, do you prioritize local candidates? Suzanne, can I start with you on that one?
Absolutely. So, of course, I think there's been a tremendous amount of work on workforce development and a lot of attention, particularly given to Ready to Work. And I think the combination of what SA Works is doing with the TPM, the Talent Pipeline Management, is going to be a real difference maker as we move forward with Ready to Work. We've had members, and I'm really proud of the manufacturing sector. The manufacturing sector has had so many companies who have come to the table to be part of the TPM activity. And what that is going to allow us to do, and what we have done, is be able to quantify the opportunity for jobs and what those are in that sector, which then can provide data as we're working on trying to fit candidates that are Ready to Work with real opportunities down the road, because we know the positions are going to be available. One of our struggles, at least within that manufacturing group that we've talked about many times, has been in manufacturing onboarding people. We're not having a problem with the pipeline as it is onboarding people. but retaining them. And then how members understand really what it means to be in manufacturing. So I think the work that's ongoing right now for the occupational profiles and how we're getting those to the caseworkers so that the caseworkers can in turn represent what the work is, and then activity ongoing about how to get the caseworkers out into the field to see some of the jobs that they're talking about is going to be a real difference maker as we, this is a long game. It's not something that's going to be solved in the next month, but those pieces coming together so that the caseworkers understand the work, understand the outlook of what work's going to be available, and we're able to couple that and match with the folks in the program is going to be a difference maker for sure. So we're really excited about that. We've been able to identify common needs across the sector that, and very excited with just our advanced manufacturing technician program, which is run through Texas FAME. We've got people in the room here who are very much a part of that. But with the help of Dr. Flores, we've been able to add a cohort and to be able to expand that because the numbers say the jobs are going to be there. So it makes sense for us to be able to work towards providing those opportunities. So, we're excited about it, and we really believe it's going to be a difference maker as we look out in the future, and we're matching the workforce with the available jobs.
I saw some head nods on that one. Does anyone want to jump in on workforce development?
I would just say that cannot be more true for the healthcare sector. There's so much need for jobs across the healthcare sector. And so the approach that Ready to Work has taken to get the sector leaders together to identify what the actual needs are and what the job training needs to be to fill those jobs, I think that's been a game changer for us, to be at the table creating job profiles with our peers in the community to say this is what we need in an MA, in a medical assistant, and then creating pipelines, whether it's through Alamo College or other areas, to train those personnel and then bring them on. Retention is key. People don't want to become a medical assistant one for the next 20 years. And so what does that mean for them in terms of opportunity, in terms of career growth? We have created job ladders for folks to expand to higher skilled medical assistant jobs in more complex clinics. And so that's been, I think, a promising aspect for the candidates to see that I can make a career here. This job training is actually going to lead to a lifetime of a job and can expand to other opportunities for me. And so I think being in on the front end with the creation of the profiles has been really, really beneficial for us.
Great. Now, I'm going to ask you all, if you had to make a prediction right now, what is the future of San Antonio's workforce? So which jobs or revenue streams or products will exist in 10 years that don't exist now? And I want to start with Craig on that because I'm hoping there's new products you can talk about.
I think if I learned anything during the pandemic, it's my crystal ball has a big old crack in it. So my predicting power has completely evaporated. It's very interesting. The world is just changing so much faster, and even for us, product development. Like when I walk into an H-E-B store, and if you stand and say the Lincoln Heights, in Alamo Heights, that's old Albertsons completely being redone, and you stand in the middle and you look a 360 degree, almost everything in there did not exist 6 years ago. That Meal Simple department with those ready meals didn't exist, say, 7 years ago. Totally new. That those seafood, all that value-added seafood in the 3-deck did not exist 2 years ago. That curbside business over in the corner did not exist 7 years ago. And you can go around like all that value-added cut fruit and the 7 tons of guacamole we make every week in store. We did not do that a decade ago. So the pace of change, even in kind of basic things like groceries, changing real fast, and obviously with AI and technology, like that is only speeding up. So I think Darwin was right. We have to adapt faster than our competitors, and then other cities. And that's the skill we all have to get good at. We compete against the world's largest retailers. They're vastly larger than we are. We're 44 billion, Walmart is 650 or so billion, something of that order. So more than 15 times our size. So how do we get better at adapting, seeing the trends, and moving our organizations to be able to be ahead of some big, powerful folks? So for us, that's the name of the game.
Cool. Who has a prediction?
Yeah.
Look, I won't make a prediction about products, but I think Craig's got a crack. Mine looks like the fog out this window, right here. But I think what we do know is the pace of change is increasing, and that's not going to change. So this idea of creating agile and adaptable institutions, companies, structures, however you want to phrase it, is vitally important. I think I would rather focus on what are the skills of tomorrow, because I think that's really relevant to helping this generation of students get ready for tomorrow. And I think we're going to be in a period where the hard skills around data and analytics, a risk assessment, problem solving are going to be at even more of a premium going forward. But at the same time, empathy and care and the soft skills of actually inspiring and connecting with people will also be at a premium. And I think we're going to be asking of people to be both left and right brain, to be both hard skills and soft skills, to be successful in this rapidly changing environment. And so I think as we look at what we're teaching today, what we're training for today, coding's out there out front, but coding may go away as well. It really is about kind of learning those hard analytic skills, but also the people and soft skills necessary to bring teams together to do amazing things. And I think that's where we ought to focus. To Craig's point, all these things have been invented, but if you ask him 6 years ago, was he going to invent these? They go, I don't know, my crystal ball's broken, right? But as time goes by, you use that adaptable capability to adjust and change and do it at faster and faster speed.
Great, go ahead.
Yeah, so in my little space, in aerospace, there's so much change that is happening that's beyond exciting. I talked about the drone competition. Unmanned vehicles in the air is going to be something that we're going to see in our lifetime, like in the next couple of years. They're already introducing them in certain markets, and I think it's just waiting for FAA approval to get some of these things, through. The port is building, launch pads and electric, vehicles, and I think all of that's going to change. Space is big. Most people in San Antonio don't know the stuff that we're doing in space. My little company this quarter will deliver the first container that will move medical equipment on rockets. And it's beyond fun stuff. Yeah. And, so I think the products, the industries are going to change so dramatically. At the port, we have several companies, and together with the leadership of the port, cyber is huge in San Antonio. This is one of the big assets that we have, and Jim's working really hard to move Cyber Command to San Antonio. We hope he does. The good part about my job is I talk to militaries all the time. We have product in 37 countries, and it's really fun to see what they're thinking about and what they're doing and how they're preparing after COVID and with these new technologies. So I think San Antonio has an opportunity to be in the forefront of these new technologies if we just concentrate, focus, and get Jenna to keep working harder.
Suzanne and Andrea, will you close us out with an answer to that question?
Yeah, I was thinking really along the lines of Wayne in regard to, I think we're going to see a real need for deep technical skills, which may or not be associated with a degree. We're starting to see that job experience, and as we move towards AI, we could probably talk about AI for hours, but it's a segment where we're seeing AI come to fruition right now with ChatGPT and some of these other things that are related to writing. But it's only as good as the person who can edit it, because the information in and of itself can be wrong. So having the technical skill to be able to understand if what's being generated by AI makes any sense or not is going to be really important. And we're also starting to see this transform businesses. We talk about connected assets and machine learning. And that knowledge of being able to vet what's happening from an AI perspective to then be able to feed back into those loops as it relates to the machine learning are really going to be critical. So, my sense is that we're going to see some shift, and that's, what we're looking at from broadly within Toyota, is that traditional expectation of business school and MBA and, all of these things are going to start to shift as we see AI make its presence. But nonetheless, we still have to make sure that it's right and correct. And so those deep technical skills are going to be important, whether they're related to an academic perspective or just experience and knowledge. So I think it's going to be exciting. We're in the middle of connecting our equipment assets throughout our plant right now. And a little overwhelming as we're moving into this space, because we're dropping IT drops. We're connecting every single piece of equipment we have so that we can start this data collection that then will be able to give us machine health, and then we're monitoring machine health to decide when to work on the equipment now instead of doing traditional preventative maintenance type things. I'm a little bit sad that I'm the president and I can't be out there in the middle of all that, because it's so exciting. Things are happening so fast, and the opportunity for how it's going to transform us, it's just really, really amazing what those opportunities are from an efficiency perspective. But we still have to have those problem solvers. I mean, at the end of the day, all it's doing is giving us more data. So how you analyze that data and are able to get to the meat of what the problem is and connect the countermeasure to the problem is going to be the key.
Yeah, thank you. I think I would just add that listening to all of these needs, right? Technical skills, hard skills, soft skills, data literacy. What this requires is a resiliency of leaders to really be able to adapt and respond to all of the inputs. And so I just think the notion of leading in small teams, it's going to be really critical that whether you're leading a degreed group or professionals, doctors, nurses, the ability to be resilient with all of this change, we've got to build that core skill into all of our leaders, no matter where they lead in the organization.
If I can just add, we also have to be ready. We're going to have some failures too.
Yeah.
Fail fast, reflect, move on, because it's happening fast.
And be resilient to failure.
And be resilient to failure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today in this panel. Every once in a while in our day-to-day news coverage, we think it's valuable to step back and have a conversation, especially on something as important as the future of work. So thank you all for being here. And I'll invite Angie Mock back up to the stage as we clap for our panelists. You can step back.
Thank you so much. If y'all just want to stay, I'm going to be really brief. Thank you so much. What an incredible panel. And Lee, thanks for your expert moderation. We appreciate you all. And y'all talked a lot about the importance of the team. And at our little nonprofit organization, our team is everything. And I'd like to invite our team members here with us. We've got a few journalists and some business folks to stand. Thank you so much, San Antonio Report team. They work tirelessly every day to keep this community informed and engaged, and we're so grateful. A few things before we wrap up. On the back of your program, you will see a little QR code, and that's for you to give us some input and feedback about this event today and help us plan future events that will better serve this community. Also, I see so many individual and corporate supporters in this room, and I cannot tell you how grateful we are for your support. The media business is not easy these days, and your community support helps us ensure that this community has the credible information that we need to be great. All great cities have great journalism, and we appreciate your support. And I mentioned that incredible board of directors earlier when I started. We are in the middle of our spring membership campaign, and our incredible board of directors has pledged or has given $15,000 as a match grant. So through the 13th, which is the end of our campaign, if you become a member at any amount, your donation will be matched. And we would really appreciate that. There was a QR code, I think, and then also there's a QR code, but you can just go to our website. Community news needs community support. Thanks again to our Changemaker sponsor, USAA, our innovation sponsors, Pape Dawson, Engineers, Texas A&M, San Antonio, City of San Antonio Workforce Department, 80/20 Foundation, and all of our city builder sponsors. We appreciate you all so much. Go out and make it a great rest of the day. Thank you.